Hello there and welcome to Hub Beyond Numbers where we learn maths the easy way. Now in this video we are looking at geometric construction. Anything concerning geometric construction will be treated in this and then the following videos. Now before we quickly go into construction, let's look at some various or some few terms we need to know that we'll be using as well so that we'll be able to understand and apply the concepts. For the terms we'll be looking at, we'll first of all look at a point. What is a point? A point is just a location with no sides. You see? So a point is a location, no side. This here can be a point. See? This over here can also be a point. They all do not have what? Sizes. This is also a point. Right? So as we are constructing, we'll be told what take note of certain points. And you need to understand what that simply means. Now, the next one I'll be looking at is a line. You have heard of the word line so many times, right? But in construction, when we talk of line, it we simply mean a straight infinite path. A straight infinite, it means it has no end. So something like this, I can call this a line. And as you can see, I have denoted it with this over here. See, to say that it continues endlessly both at the right and then the left hand side. So lines continue endlessly. Hence, we say they are infinite path. Now, it is from a line that we now get a line segment. It is from a line that we'll get what we call a line segment. So a line segment is simply a part of the line with two endpoints. If I take a part of this long line over here, so I want to start from here and then end here. And I'll call this point A and then B. Then this has now become a line segment. Now the last thing we'll be looking at is a ray. So a ray is just like a line, but no, it is not a line. A ray starts at one point and extends endlessly in one direction. So we can call this a point over here. You see that this ray is what starting from and then extends. You see, and then you can also even it moves in any direction. So I can also have another ray pointing to this direction, another ray pointing to this direction. These are all what? Rays. So now that we know these basic terms, let's quickly go into some constructions. So now that we know our terms, let's look at how we can construct a line with a given measure. How we can construct a line with a given measure. So let's say you are asked to construct a line segment, sorry. So if you want to construct a line segment with a given measure, then the first thing you need a line. You see, I'll first of all construct a line. So to construct a line, I'll take my ruler here and just construct or draw any line at all. All right. So I'll be drawing my line, let's say from here all the way to end over here. Right. Now, if you want to construct a line of, let's say, 5 centimeters, then what you will do is you pick your ruler, or first of all, take note of a point. Because we said a line segment has what? Two end points. So you take a point, your first point of the line segment. So I'll take mine to be this over here. Then with your ruler, you measure what? The line you want to construct. So you have what? 5 centimeters. So from 0 to 5. Then I just take note of my 5 over here. Then you are done. There are two ways you can do it. You can either use your ruler straight away, or you can also use a compass. After which you now name your end point. So let's say A, B. That is 5 centimeters. And you are good to go. Very simple. So this is how we construct line segments. Get your line, then after which you now come and measure to get the exact measurement of the line segment you are to construct. Now with that said, let's look at how we can construct a perpendicular at a given line. So to illustrate how to construct a perpendicular at a given point on a line, this is my line segment AB. We have a point X. When we talk of perpendicular, a line is said to be perpendicular of the other if they meet at an angle of 90 degrees. What do we mean by that? If I have this line here and I have this one here, then I would say this line is perpendicular to this one if it touches at what? 90 degrees. So to construct this kind of line at a point X, it simply means we want a very straight line that will touch the point and then meet it at 90 degrees. To do this, you need your compass. All right, you need your compass. So you take your compass and then you put the compass pin at the point where you want to construct your perpendicular, right? And then open it appreciably, or you open it a little. Now, your opening should touch 2 points on the line. Let it touch 2 points on the line. With those 2 points now, we need to mark. So I'm going to mark this. You would have to let the tip of your pencil be very, very, very thin so that you enhance your accuracy. So I'm going to mark this line here and also mark this line here. Now, these 2 points that we have marked are what are going to help us to construct the perpendicular. So I'm taking off my compass and you see these 2 points here. I will now take my compass and stand at one end, one of the marks, or we call it an arc. And then you open your compass toward a radius. Now with this opening, you now draw an arc above. You draw it nicely above. Then with the same opening, without closing or opening your compass, you move to the other end of where your arc is. And then you do what? You construct another arc to intersect the previous one you did. You see? So I've now constructed that to intersect the previous one I did. With this now, what you do is you take your ruler. We are done with the compass work. So we take our ruler and make sure we align the point of intersection of these two arcs to where we have our point. And then we draw a straight line through it. So this is it over here, and I'm drawing a straight line through it. You see? So this here now becomes my perpendicular. And you realize that if you are to measure the angle it has made, you realize that it is an angle of what? 90 degrees. As you can see, mine being displayed here. You see, it passes through the 90-degree calibration exactly. Yes. So this is how we construct perpendiculars forward at a given point on a line. Now let's look at how we bisect a line. How do we bisect a line? So talking of bisection of a line segment, when we say you are bisecting something, it simply means you are dividing it into equal parts. You see? So we have this line AB over here. Let me measure that. See. So if we measure this line segment, which is AB, it gives us an approximation of 5 centimeters. If we say we are bisecting it, it simply means at the end of the day, we should get what? 2.5 centimeters from the middle, 2.5 centimeters from. So to bisect it, you need your compass. And what do you do with your compass is you open it appreciably. What do I mean by that? You open it to extend more than half of your line. You see? And then with your pencil or with your compass, you draw an arc above it. And then you draw one also below it. Now, with the same radius you use to draw these arcs, you now come to the other end of your line segment, and then you now come and draw another arc. You make sure it intersects the previous one. So one below, and then one above. Very, very nicely. Now, with that done, you now take your ruler and make sure you align it, right? You align it such that you can draw a line through these 2 points of intersection. You see, so as you can see, I have aligned mine, and I can now draw a straight line through my points of intersections. You see, something like this, right? So with a line through the point of intersection, you would realize that if I'm to measure the distance from A to where I have my line, you see it's around 2.5. You measure this one here as well, you're also going to get a 2.5, which means you have been able to what? Bisect your line, or divided your line into two equal what? Parts. That is what we call bisection of a line. So now that we know how to draw a perpendicular and then how to bisect a line, if you look at the previous one we did over here, we constructed a perpendicular at a given point on the line. This is the point on the line. We constructed a perpendicular on that point. But what if you want to construct a perpendicular at the ends of the line? So I want to construct it at A or at B. You see, unlike X, which is in the line, you now want to construct the perpendicular at the ends of the line. How do we go about that? So we have this line segment here, line segment AB, and we want to construct a perpendicular at A. If you really understood the previous one, that is constructing the perpendicular on the line at any point, you would get this one very easy. So to do that, we still need 2 points. See? So just as we did for the other one, you now come and stand at A. Now standing at A, what we do is you draw a semicircle. A semicircle. So a semicircle, something like this. And what does this semicircle do? Just like the previous one, it gives you what? 2 points of reference you can stand to be able to draw your arcs above. You see? So with a semicircle, I now have this point here that I can stand on and then draw an arc above very nicely. I have one arc above, you see, just by standing on one of the points. Then with the same opening of my compass, I now stand here and then draw another arc, intersect the previous one I drew. You see, so I'm now drawing this arc here to intersect the previous one. Then after which I now align my ruler through the point of what? Intersection, and then draw a straight line. So I draw a straight line from my point where I want my perpendicular through the point of intersection. And that is that. You have drawn your perpendicular successfully and very, very what? Nicely. This is your perpendicular. And as we did for the previous one to confirm, if you come here and then measure the angle that has been formed, you realize that it is a 90-degree angle, as you see over here. Yes. So with that said, let's look at our last construction, after which we will now look at angles, construction of angles in our next. For this very last one, we are looking at how to construct a parallel line. How to construct a parallel line or a parallel to a given line. So construction of a parallel to a given line. Let's say I have this line segment here, AB, and I want to draw a parallel line that is, let's say, 5 centimeters away from it. So something like this. You see, this line can be said to be parallel to it because it doesn't touch it. But how do we construct something like this? So we know the measurement or how far that line is supposed to be away from this. To do that, you would spread out a number of points evenly across the line segment, which is your reference point. So I have my A, B. Let me get one more point around the middle. And I'm going to name that my C. You see? And since I want my parallel line to be 5 centimeters away from this line here, you take your compass, right? Now you take your compass and then measure you measure a radius of 5 centimeters on your ruler. So for mine here, I can just open that up, get my 5 centimeters. So let me quickly do that. So as I said earlier on, you take your compass, you see, and then you open it to about 5 centimeters. You do that on your ruler. You open your compass to 5 centimeters. And as you can see on mine, I have my 5 centimeters over here. So I open my compass to 5 centimeters. And I now bring it to the point of reference. That is, this is my line I'm using as a reference to measure that 5 centimeter parallel line away from it. Now with this first point of reference, I now draw an arc over here. You see? Then you can now move it to the next point and then draw another arc over here nicely. And then you now move it to your last point, then draw another arc over there nicely. Now after which you now take your ruler and make sure you position it such that it aligns on these 3 arcs you have drawn. You see, on their tips. Do that. With that now, I'll now draw a very straight line to touch all these arcs I have drawn. You see, now you realize that if you measure the distance between these 2 lines, they would all be of the same measure. If I measure from point A to touch the line, you see that is 5 centimeters. Point C to also touch the line is also 5 centimeters, and then point B touch this line also over here is 5 centimeters. So basically, this is how we construct parallel to any line segment. In this video, we have looked at how to construct so many type of lines, right? So first of all, we looked at how to construct, or we looked at the definitions of what a point, a line segment, and then a ray is. Then we looked at how to construct a line segment with a given measure. Then how to construct a perpendicular to a given point on the line. How to bisect a line segment. How to construct a perpendicular at the end of a line. And then finally, how to do what? Construct a parallel to a line. In our next video, we look at how to construct angles. We'll start from copying angles, then we now construct angles of our own. See you in the next video.